is back to 1100 a share. And the question is, after the thanks debacle, is our next step 1200 within the next few days? This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. This is called Maximo Park in the greater St. Pete area. And I hope you can hear me and see, because I wanted to bring in the beautiful winter views here for your enjoyment. So today is a really interesting day, obviously. Tesla is rising for the second day, 50 points. And based on the trend we're seeing a nice comeback for the stock. As you know, the demise or the drop by 300 points of Tesla started with the thank you from the Silicon Valley Tesla Owners Club related to the Hertz sale. And that thank you ended up being a $200 million downward thank you, based on Elon making an off comment that this is not a signed contract yet. Just a reminder, we would like to encourage you to join us on Patreon. We also wanted to note that this is a copyrighted broadcast. Any use of the material here is prohibited without written permission. We also wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe if you enjoy the show. So, as I was saying, the circumstance right now is that Tesla's kind of approved for somewhere between the $1,200 and $1,300 price point if you average out all the analysts that have done their recent upgrades. So what basically we saw happen was something that I like to call the Run for the Hills program. So anytime a CEO says or does something that people are nervous about, usually the first people to jump ship are the hedge funds, because they have sniffers or artificial intelligence computers that monitor the activity of the stock market, and they immediately sell. And the goal is that even if they lose 20, 30 points from where they are, it way beats losing 100 or 200 points, because the nature of the news that's come out is rather horrible, and they probably save themselves a ton of money in the process, especially if they're on short-term calls or puts, etc. The next part of the process is once we get through that initial shock and then the drop in price, we actually end up with the next group of folks are, well, wait a second, let's actually read the news and determine if the coast is clear for the stock to rise back where it was previously. Now, in Tesla's case, the initial dialogue was saying that the coast wasn't clear. The main reason is this discussion going on between Elon and Hertz regarding the 100,000 vehicles that Hertz had ordered. As we've discussed in our last show, what really happened is that Hertz did the usual ordering process that everybody else does, which is to go on the website and order. So once you put that order in and the order is accepted, there's a sequence of VIN numbers that will go with your order, and that'll spit out pretty much when the thing will be ready based on what their production schedule is. And given that Tesla's backlog between 1 and 2 years right now, obviously that's a long time for everybody concerned, including the folks at Hertz, and they weren't thrilled to hear that they're ordering so many and they're still getting the order schedule that the regular Tesla buyers are getting. So it's taken a week or two for all of this discussion to actually work out, for us to figure out kind of where are we and what's happening. And I feel like the last couple of days confirmed that the concerns that everyone had regarding, well, Elon is doing his sales, and we've got this issue happening with Hertz, that's a double run for the hills session. So now, even if, the Elon had done what he did previously, which is to pre-announce those sales, you're still stuck in the position where there's a, well, what exactly does this mean Is Elon going to sell all of it? He's going to sell part of it. What's the truth of that situation, and how should we, as investors, manage that? Well, I think that after this second shock, there are multiple days of let's figure out what this means. When you sell 10% of Elon's position, I think the value when it was at the apex was worth $21 billion. That sounds like a lot of money to normal people, but when you're looking at a stock worth $1 trillion, $21 billion worth of stock, is that 2%? I mean, yeah, it's a number. Yeah, it's significant for normal people, but for a stock this expensive, it's almost a rounding error, is my argument. And that's why the next stage of all this is, wait, the stock is down, how do we react to this extra 2% of stock? And the answer is sort of emerging as it's all no big deal on both of the issues that drove the stock price down. So there seems to be now a return to normalcy going on. And as we go to that normal return zone, we're starting to get, back into a logical space for how well Tesla is doing and why it is that everybody invested in it in the first place, and why it is that a company that's only selling 1 million vehicles a year currently is worth $1 trillion. And that is backlog of sales, superior all forms of operating relative to competitors, disorganized response by competitors, consumers confirming it's the best brand available. So there's all kinds of data points that validate who and what Tesla is, and there's nothing to sort of negatively affect that anymore. So hence, we can see the stock returning to where it should be. Now, based on Elon doing something like this once every 90 days, possibly every 120 days, a lot of the longtime Tesla holders have gotten used to sort of seeing this kind of a circumstance. And so therefore, I would say that I can understand why people sort of jumped out the building. Now, as they're returning again, I can definitely see that. I'd have to say that it's very hard to see bailing on a company / stock where every vehicle they make has multiple people standing in line trying to get it, with a backlog running 1 to 2 years. I mean, it's a dream scenario for anyone to own a stock in that circumstance. And, oh, by the way, competition is real, but it's not that prominent to actually impact anything that Tesla's doing. So basically, as we predicted, this thing is now returning. The only question I think is the destination by Thanksgiving $1,200 or $1,300 a share? And again, if we could get a Gigafactory or two open, that number could easily bounce up into the 12 to 1,500 zone by December. But that would be awesome to see. Let's also keep one other thing in mind. I just got some video. It's on YouTube, and you may want to check it out. Tesla posted something called Phase 3 of Shanghai. As you may recall, Elon indicated they would probably need about 5 gigafactories to service the needs of China. It's interesting to watch because the second gigafactory should have started production or started development by now, but it looks like what they've chosen to do is instead just go ahead and expand the current facility because there's all that land there to do it. And there's a lot of efficiencies with the location concentration they currently have that they wouldn't get if they spread out. So I do think there's a southern China need, as in Shenzhen, for a new facility for Tesla, especially because that's where Cattle's headquarters are, and therefore they can get battery easily. There's also better weather there. There's also an ability to service both the South Chinese market and the rest of Asia from that spot, more quickly and more easily than if we were doing it from Shanghai. So I believe that Phase 3, based on what I saw, will be done middle of this coming year. And the way things are going for Tesla, each of the phases seems to be about 500,000 to 600,000 vehicles, but this one, I think, may be a 1 to 2 million vehicle facility, because this is phase 3, and there is discussion of, do you build another plant for phase 4, or what's going to happen with that has not been decided. But I brought up this because what's actually happening is, well, we're all worried about what's going to happen with the new Gigafactories that will enhance production. Tesla's actually been working on expanding production at current facilities. So there's no slow in that process, despite the fact that they're building out these new facilities. So there are all these different ways in which Tesla is moving to satiate huge demand for their vehicles. And frankly, I'm really looking forward to the outcomes of this. And the first of those outcomes, in terms of them well exceeding their production numbers and therefore delivering the type of numbers that will maintain, if not enhance, the stock price as we head into Q4 earnings, is a no-brainer in my mind. So the final note on this production activity is there's talk that we're now at a 70,000 vehicle per month run rate for China. And if we get maybe a 10 or 15% bump in what's going on in Silicon Valley, that nets out to about 100,000 vehicles a month from both facilities. And you have to admit, that's a pretty awesome number. That's above 1 million vehicle a year run rate. And those facilities are only getting larger and will sit side by side with the other gigafactories that have been built. So all of this added up, in my mind, suggests that where we are now is Tesla recovering on a stock price basis, but I think that recovery will go ballistic over the next 30 to 90 days, and therefore also hit the stock very nicely in a hard direction upwards. So we look forward to your comments on this, and we look forward to keeping you abreast of where we are, where we're going. Also want to note we have some SpaceX shares if there's interest. Also wanted to note that prior to our health tips, I wanted to encourage you to join us on Patreon for more info that will help you investing and trading over this rapidly changing environment. And finally, wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe if you enjoy this show. And then next, we wanted to take a look at our health tip for the day. And it actually comes from a guy named Don King, i.e. the famous promoter with Mike Tyson and others. And Don's suggestion was that you wash your hands before and after you use the restrooms, for men in particular. And the reason is that who knows where your hands have been and what's on them prior to you going. So a suggestion he made was, why not wash your hands before, which would limit the potential for self-contamination. Wasn't my idea. I just thought it was an interesting suggestion that was made. So I wanted to next move on to just saying, we'll shut it down for a day at this point. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lehithro, Hebrew, Choda Hafiz, Farsi, Zdravstvuyte Russian, Ni hao ma Chinese, Kambawa Japanese, Namaste Hindi, Salam Muslim, Heido Swedish, G'day our friends in Australia, Asante Swahili, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us, have a great day, and bye for now.